Hello, my name is Andrew Kocir, and I will be presenting to you the statue of Augustus Prima Porta. The statue of Augustus Prima Porta is a beautiful work of art that highlighted the ingenuity, prestige, and power of the Roman Empire and her first emperor. The Prima Porta is a 2-meter-high white marble statue of Emperor Caesar Augustus, formerly known as Gaius Octavius before his coronation as emperor. The statue represents a young Augustus in the prime of his life, despite not having been commissioned until well into his later years. He was originally sculpted holding the scepter of the emperor and holding out his arm outstretched as if he was commanding attention from an audience. This statue later influenced many other commissioned works of Roman sculpture. One of these influenced later works was the grand bronze statue of Marcus Aurelius. Just like the Prima Porta before it, Aurelius is sculpted to be massive in appearance as to look down on his subjects. Like the Prima Porta, Aurelius is not holding a weapon, and despite Augustus's breastplate, which appears to be far more ceremonial appearance than combat efficient, they are still both sculpted as confident and in a commanding manner. This trend of Roman emperors depicted as wise and confident, but not warlike, grants us as viewers an insight into Roman opinion of their leaders. This depiction often separated Rome from her enemies. Rome's enemies' leaders were often depicted as strong warriors because to lead a tribe you needed a strong warrior, but to lead an empire, a sound tactician was seen as far more proficient and useful. This here is a map of the Roman Empire at the end of Augustus's tenure as emperor, stretching from the northerly reaches of cold Europe to the dry Sahara sands and everything in between. At this time, Augustus was said to have been the direct ruler of over 35 million subjects, or 25% of the world's population. And the art of the empire was no less impressive. Now, although the Prima Porta influenced many works after it, such as Marcus Aurelius, it in turn was influenced by previous sculpture. In particular, Polycletus's Doryphorus spear-bearer. This sculpture has influenced many after it, as it was the first sound depiction of the contrapposto, or weight-bearing stance, that provides fluidness and realism to sculpture. Moving on, surprising to many was that many ancient Greek and Roman sculptures were painted, and the Prima Porta was one of those such works. Contemporary sources from the time describe Augustus as muscular, blonde, and very handsome. His hair color is fascinating, as Romans and even Greek societies had an obsession with blonde hair. It was seen as a sign of divinity, further cementing Augustus's power and divine right to rule. This obsession with blonde locks eventually even permeated to Roman aristocrats buying blonde wigs fashioned from the hair of Germanic mercenaries, slaves, and prostitutes. Furthermore, the other colors on the statue were minimalist, and much of the piece was still clandestine white, as excavated traces of color were only found on certain pieces of the statue, such as his hair and breastplate. As mentioned earlier, Augustus was linked with divinity from his tawny locks to his lineage. Shown here with the depiction of Cupid, son of Venus, tugging at his robes, he is in touch with the gods. To me, however, the most impressive thing about this statue is not the statue itself necessarily, but the skill and work from the artists who created it. Using merely hammer and chisel, ancient artists painstakingly chipped away at the admittedly brittle white marble slabs, and from this created a masterpiece that has lasted over 2 millennia. Looking closely here, you can even see the impressive details in the robe and in the chest piece, and one mistake would have ruined the entire sculpture. I can only imagine how many times this work was actually commissioned. Here you can see an actual close-up of a man recreating the ancient Roman technique of sculpture, and you can see a Roman fresco of it. The piece itself, the Augustus Prima Porta, is currently on display to limited audiences in the Vatican Museum, so that future patrons may view this awe-inspiring piece of ancient art. Thank you.